I've been running 5 kilometers every morning, but I just can't seem to lose these 5 pounds I've put on. Welcome to Jen's Jyugyou. My name is Jen and I am Canadian, and today I'm going to teach you how Canadians measure things in English. In my opening sentence, you could hear me use both kilometers and pounds. Why? Because in Canada, we actually use both. Before the 1970s in Canada, the Imperial system was used for measuring. However, quick note on Imperial measurements. Canada used to use, and sometimes still does use, the British Imperial way of measuring things, which uses the same words as the American Imperial system, but the measurements are actually slightly different. So before the 1970s, you can imagine Canada and the US being neighbors and the biggest trading partners of each other, how this could have become very confusing. So, in the 1970s, the government of Canada decided to switch over to the metric system. Starting in the 70s, the metric system only was taught in schools. The speed limit signs changed from miles per hour into kilometers per hour, and it was expected that Canadians would quickly adapt to this new and better way of measuring things. However, that hasn't always been the case. In fact, when the metric system was first introduced in Canada, there was a lot of opposition to it. As a result, now, most Canadians use both a mixture of the British Imperial measuring system and the metric system. For some measurements in Canada, we will always use Imperial or we will always use metric. Well, for other types of measurements, it depends on the generation of the person who you're talking to and where in Canada the person is from, which measurement system they will use. Let's take a look at some common ways that Canadians will measure things. First, let's start with distance. Distance means how far away something is. When we are driving or running, we will measure distance based in kilometers or in meters. When we fill up our car at the gas station, we talk about how many kilometers per liter we can get from the gas at the gas station. The road signs for the speed limit are written in kilometers per hour. Height, on the other hand, meaning how tall something or someone is, can be measured in both centimeters or meters, depending on what you're talking about, or in feet and inches. The majority of Canadians, when talking about their personal height, usually tend to talk about their height in feet and inches. However, on our driver's license, our height is listed in centimeters. When you go to the doctor, they measure you in centimeters. An interesting point about this fact, though, is that a lot of younger people these days prefer to use centimeters rather than using feet and inches. Next, let's talk about weight. Weight means how heavy something is. If a Canadian is measuring their personal weight, they will usually use pounds to discuss their weight. However, if you're going to the grocery store and you want to buy meat or some kind of produce, usually the advertisements for the sale will advertise, oh, $1 per pound, or oh, only 35 cents per pound. However, when you look at the packaging of the meat, or when you actually look at your receipt from buying the produce, you are not charged by pound, you are charged by kilogram. So for official ways of measuring things, kilograms are actually what's used. Next, let's talk about volume. Volume means how much of something like a liquid that there is. When it comes to volume, in Canada, it depends what you are measuring, which system is usually used by Canadians. If we're measuring gas for your car, I mentioned before that you will purchase gas in liters, not in the Imperial system of gallons. Most Canadians, if they're following a recipe to make something, they will measure things in cups. Most of the time, I also use cups when I'm baking something, but I can also use milliliters. For example, I know that 1 cup is the same as 250 milliliters. And most measuring cups like this one will have both cups and milliliter measurements written on them. Most Canadians will measure milk in liters. In some places in Canada, when you go shopping, you can buy 4 liters of milk in a bag. So it's a big bag with 3 smaller bags inside. If you are buying alcohol from the LCBO or the beer store, the liquor store, the alcohol bottles will be measured based on milliliters. How many milliliters are in that bottle or in that can of alcohol? However, if you go to a bar to drink alcohol and you want to order a beer, you will still ask for a pint of beer. Now let's move on to temperature. When Canadians are talking about the temperature in terms of the weather, we will always use Celsius. A bright, warm, sunny day is maybe 31 degrees. A bitter, cold winter day is maybe -3 degrees Celsius. However, if Canadians are baking or roasting something in their oven, we will measure things in Fahrenheit. Next, let's talk about length. Length means how long something is. This is an area where, again, most Canadians will actually use the Imperial system. For example, when I go to get a haircut, even if I say to the hairdresser, oh, please trim my hair about maybe 1.5 centimeters, 2 centimeters, she doesn't get it. Oh, about 2 inches? Yeah, sure, why not, right? So most of the time we will measure the length of things, such as hair, in inches. In terms of construction, we will use the Imperial system. Sometimes I have helped with construction for making sets for theater companies, and if we need some wood, we might say, oh, we need to pick up some 2x4s, meaning wood that is 2 by 4 inches. We wouldn't say we need so many centimeters by so many centimeters of wood. Now let's talk about area. So area basically means how much space would be inside this house. If I want to put furniture into this room, how much floor space do I have? The majority of Canadians will measure it by square feet, not by square meters. Next, let's talk about shoe sizes. In Canada, my husband and I apparently have the same shoe size. However, if you look at our shoes and look at our feet, they are different sizes. My husband's feet are bigger than mine. If we measured our feet by centimeters, which is what I used to do in Japan, my feet are approximately almost 24 centimeters, whereas my husband's feet are about 26 centimeters. 2 centimeters bigger than me. However, when buying shoes in Canada, we both have size 7.5. If you're looking for shoes in Canada, we use the same shoe size as Americans do. So today, you learned how Canadians measure things. And now it's time for question of the day. Today's question is, how do you measure things in your country? And are your measurements as confusing as here in Canada? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this lesson. If you found it useful, please subscribe to Jen's Jyugyou and give this video a thumbs up. Good luck with your English studies. See you in the next lesson.